chanting of the sutra. They've done the chanting of the Sutra of Infinite Meanings. And so today we're going to look at the first chapter, virtues. Okay, so we're going to go through the first chapter in less than 30 minutes. This will be quite a feat to do because there's quite a lot of content. But instead of trying to go in every phrase in depth, I try to get a bigger perspective on what this chapter is trying to say. So let's move on. So first of all, let's look at the structure. What is the structure and what are the other components? So we know that the Sutra of Infinite Meanings is part of the Threefold Lotus Sutra. It is the epilogue of going into the Lotus Sutra. If we break it down into three parts, the first part would be that it all starts with one. One begins. From one, infinite comes about. And that's why it paved the way for Lotus Sutra, which carries everything, all the skillful means, and brings it down into one vehicle, one true vehicle. And from that one true vehicle, it spreads out into all the skillful means of the stories of how we can actually make it happen. And that's Lotus Sutra. And then the last part would be how we can actually do it. So the first part is more of the epilogue, is more of trying to summarize what one to infinite from one, the meaning of the idea that infinite could come from one. And the second part is to narrow everything down to that one true vehicle, and then goes again from one to infinite, all the skillful means and all the stories and all the analogies and the stories. And the third part is how actually someone might have done this. Okay, so that's the structure of it all, the three parts Lotus Sutra. Now, if we want to go in a little bit deeper, so there's three chapters in the Sutra of Infinite Meanings. So this is the epilogue. The epilogue itself also has three chapters. And the three chapters, as we know, are the virtues, expounding the Dharma, and 10 merits. There are three different parts. Now, how do you look at these three different parts? There's actually a progression that's involved. There's actually a process that's involved. Why chapter 1 is chapter 1, and 2 is such, and 3 is such. And I try to make explanation and make connections on why these are the case. Why chapter 2 comes before chapter 3, and why chapter 1 is virtue. So, for example, if we look at the triple jewels of Buddhism, then we can actually see that in the first chapter, it's talking about virtues in the place of the bodhisattvas, but it's actually talking about through what they did, it shows you the virtues of the Buddha. The next part is telling you what the Dharma is. Expounding the Dharma is all about the very, very deeper, the profound part of the Dharma, namely from one to infinite, infinite from one, and then also that what is this emptiness? What is the true form? What is the unreal form? So all these are the parts that are very much deeper in the second part. That's the Dharma. The third chapter, 10 merits, it's really talking about how to do this. It gives you examples of who and how, when you face certain challenges, what you do. So this is actually the people. So if you break it down into three parts, these could actually correspond to the virtues, represent the Buddha's virtues and the Buddha's actions, etc. The second part is about the Dharma, the idea, the concept, and the principles. The third part is about how to do this and how the 10 different steps or the 10 different things that we can do to achieve these virtues by doing the Dharma. So you practice the Dharma in the third part. You can also look at it as this way. You can also look at it as a process of cultivation. The first part is looking at the target, right? You acknowledge that this is the end goal. These are the virtues that you would like to achieve, that you would like to have at the end of your cultivation. Expounding the Dharma is part of the contemplation that you contemplate. You begin to think about how your life and how the Dharma actually interact with your life and interact with your cultivation and practice. And the 10 merits is about doing. So you can break it down into the process of cultivation as well. Part of your cultivation and part of your learning is first, know what you want to become. And that's the virtue. It outlines all the virtues and all the wonderful virtues of the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas. That's what you want to become. That's who you want to be. And then it tells you how you can get there in a more profound way, principles. And then it tells you how you can actually do it, what you can actually do to achieve that. So this is also, if you break it down into 3 chapters, you can also look at it as the process of cultivation. There are a lot more countless ways you can break the 3 chapters down. But in essence, it's part of a bigger 3-fold Lotus Sutra. And within the epilogue, there's also 3 parts. So you can imagine that it's circles within a circle. Each individual circle, they are all sharing the same center. That's called concentric, right? 同心圆. Same center. But with each center, with each circle, it all has their own logic about where do I begin, how do I do it next, and how do I do it. So it's always about giving you the idea, giving you the target, and then telling you the principles, and then teaching you to do it. So it's the same thing whether you're talking about the 3-fold Lotus Sutra or you're talking about the Sutra of Infinite Meanings. It's all the same. Same structure, just smaller or bigger. So same thing in Tzu Chi, you talk about concentric circles. In the center, it's a 近似 bow, but within the center, it shares the same construct as you have the commissioner and the faith court as well. You have all the different age group, you have all the different parts of the people. It's all the same idea. So it's just a matter of how big the circle is. So the Sutra of Infinite Meaning is the epilogue, but it also has its own epilogue as well. So now we're looking into the first chapter. So now we know the bigger structure of what virtue is supposed to teach us. It's supposed to tell us what the virtues of the Buddha is and the virtues of the Bodhisattvas. It's telling us, shaping up, giving us a form, a target, an objective that's who we want to be. That's how we want to achieve. And that is what Master focused so much about our actions. Remember, the 10 precepts is used to shape all of us into a Bodhisattva. And what that means is when people see you, they want to become like you. They want to join you. And that's the first thing you do. Before you expound the Dharma, the first thing they do is not to hear you. The first thing they see, the first thing they do is they see you. So if you have the virtues, then everyone will be willing to join you. And that's why it's always the first thing. Make sure your outside form, you wear uniform, your hairs are properly tied, all the attires are proper. That's the virtue. So always begin with your target, what you want to become. And in this chapter, it talks about what you and what we all want to become at the end of our cultivation. And how do we get there are the next chapter. So now we go into chapter 1. So the very first chapter, the very first part of the chapter 1, all the sutras, it always talks about the 6 factors of accomplishment. And this is almost like, if you're talking about as a documenter, if you're talking about as a part of history, you always want to talk about, who saw this, right? Who saw what, where, and how, and who did what. So it's very, very precise in that, for every article, for every book, there's always a written by, and there's a foreword talking about why the person wrote this story. Same idea. There are 6 factors of accomplishment. That means that we have to be grateful. Without these 6 conditions to be put together, there would not be a sutra for us to read. And what are they? The first is faith. And that's the part about thus I have heard. So this is the part where you have to establish faith. Faith in what? Faith in that the sutra was indeed taught and preached by the Buddha. This is our faith, that we hold faith in that these are the proper and the correct word and the correct teaching passing down by the Buddha and all the descendants and all the Sangha. So the first part is proper your faith. Understanding that you are now entering into the teaching that is taught by the Buddha. These are the Buddha's teaching. You're about to enter into the grand teaching of the Buddha. So the first is establish the proper faith. Next is talking about the documenter. Who was the person that made this possible? And for most of the sutra, it was all Ananda. It was all recited by Ananda and then recorded and then do a little bit slight adjustment. So the document is always 如是我闻, 我, me. Who was it? That was a documenter, and that was Ananda. So establish your faith that the Ananda was the servant of the Buddha, and he followed and was a disciple, and he followed Buddha very, very closely for almost 30 years. And therefore, the Buddha, the Buddha's teaching, in fact, all the teachings should all be remembered by the person closest to the Buddha, and therefore the documenter. So without faith, none of the others would matter. Without the documenter, we would not hear this. Now, what time? The time, who spoke, the place, and attendance. Okay, so these are the 6 factors, very quickly to go through this to let everybody know. The most important part out of all this is attendance. Why? Because we're going to talk about all the people. So if you look into the sutra structure, it's going to talk about all these things. 如是我闻, 一时佛在. At one time, Buddha was at this location talking to all these people. And the story came from all these people. Now it's going to begin to explain who are these people. Now it's talking about heavenly beings, practitioners, whether lay or monastic, Dharma wheel turning kings, kings and princes, ministers, citizens, men and women, great elders, each accompanied by their families and followers. This part is to establish, and I'm trying to let everybody know, we read the text, but we have to understand what it means. What this means is that there are all the 6 realms, all the people, all the living beings, all the sentient beings are all gathered here. That means this teaching, this sutra is applicable to all. It's open to all. There's no prejudice. There's no against anything. Anyone, whether you are heavenly beings with huge merit or you're a practitioner, monastic or not, this teaching applies to you all. Whether you're the great Dharma wheel turning kings that bring great blessings to the world, or you're in the politics, you're in the government, you're in the ministers, or you're just an ordinary citizen, whether you are rich or poor, men or women, or young or old, anyone, this sutra is for you. So in a way, it tells you that these people are in attendance. It doesn't mean to tell you that these people are really there. It means to tell you that this sutra is good, it's suitable for all these people. And not only that, not only the people that are in pursuit of the sutra and the Dharma, they all bring their families and followers. So for example, for folks in Indonesia, when they come to Jing Hall, they bring their servants with them, right? Same thing, the followers, your friends, your loved ones, your families. Some of you right now here in Jing Hall, same thing. You bring your kids, you bring your parents, you bring your friends all together because you're listening to masters talking, you're listening to all these good things. It applies to you all. So this is not it's not only for the learned, not only for the intellectuals. No, this applies to everyone. So this is what this part is supposed to tell you. It's not to tell you that thousands and thousands and thousands of sentient beings are here listening. Yes, that's what the word said. But what it really means to tell you is that you should bring all these people because this sutra, the teaching, applies to you all. Now, after they tell you about who was there, the Buddha says what they did. Now, the Buddha didn't say this. The Buddha didn't say, oh, all these people are here and they all prostrate to me. That's not what the Buddha said. This is still recounted by the documenter, which is Ananda. So what did they do? They made prostrations. They are truly respectful of the Buddha. The first thing they came is they respect the Buddha. But it's not just the Buddha that they're respecting. They're respecting the Buddha as a teacher. And they're respecting the teaching, the Dharma. And they're respecting the people that will be passing on the teachings. So the teacher, the material, and the students or the student teachers, they will eventually pass on the Dharma. Okay, so how did they do this? They burn incense, scatter flowers, and made many kinds of offerings. Now, they don't, once again, this doesn't mean that they really burn incense, scatter flowers. You know, it's almost like Ananda was saying, you know, doing a play-by-play. Oh, now they're burning incense, and now the aroma and the fragrance. The real thing is, if you look deeper into it, and that's what Master explained, is that the incense burn, it tells you of the internal, in your mind, spiritual fragrance that comes about when you find that peace. Everyone, once they made the prostration, they are respectful. They are paying their tribute and offerings. They offer by having this very ease of mind. The flowers are meant to show that everyone was happy and joyous. And they're making many kinds of offering. Is not exactly only, oh, I come here with money, I come here with food. But the idea was that they come here with, so they come here with the offering that they offer their time, and they offer their resources, and they offer their most sincere attitude, okay? And then they step back and sit down to one side. So this tells you that they're about to listen. They came here to make offerings, and they're about to listen to more teachings. So I see that we're already 7:25. We're already very short on time. I'm already on page 11. So who are they? Who are these people? And specifically, this next part of the sutra goes into who each of the bodhisattvas are and why. Well, let me go through this. So there are about 20 or 30 of them that were specifically named. And then there's a summary. With these and other bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, there are 80,000 in all. See? So Master always talks about that how can there be 80,000 in that very small platform? But the whole idea wasn't that there are 80,000 real numbers there. It's really there to tell you that, okay, so hang on, sorry. Okay, so that all these bodhisattvas, they are named. And there was one time that I thought about that every time that in the, I think last time when Malaysia was here to share with the English group, when the English group was here, they share with Master. You would do the same thing, right? The brother will stand up and then will introduce yourself, and you will introduce who is here present. So it's the same idea. You would name each of the person that were present, especially the representatives. You would say, Sister Echo is here, and you have the deputy, you have the principals of the school, you have all these people. And then all the other ones who are the volunteers or who are the commissioners, they're also here. They are from, you know, Xuelong, or they're from KL, they're from all these different places. So you would do the same thing. So as the documenter, you would also say who was also here in attendance. So who are they exactly? You name a certain people that represent each branch, and then all these others in total. Okay, so it's not total 80,000, but they represent all these people. But the most important is, why were they named? Why were they named? Because they are the exemplary. They are the examples, the very good role models. These are exemplary of Dharma practitioners. They are embodiment of the Dharma body. Therefore, they are called out. These are the bodhisattvas. They are called out because they're exemplary of the Dharma practitioner who have achieved the perfection of precepts, samadhi, wisdom, okay, and liberation and the understanding of liberation. So they are called out because these are the examples. These are the presidents of the class. These are the leaders of the class that the Buddha or the Ananda wanted everybody to know. These exemplaries are here. Very important. And then it goes into, why are they exemplaries? Why? Because they have achieved this meditative and still minds. And they remain constantly in the state of samadhi. Last week, we talked about, what was the meaning, or couple of weeks ago, we talked about what is the meaning of samadhi. To me, it's not when you meditate, then you go into samadhi. See, with meditative and still mind, what does that mean? All the things around you are moving constantly, but your mind is still. It means that you are focused on the things that you're doing, and you're constantly reflective, and you're contemplating. Everything you do, you are reflecting and you're contemplating about why this happens and how this happens. So you know right away, you connect yourself with the Dharma. So all the things happening in the world, you connect them seamlessly with the Dharma. That's called the state of samadhi. So even though they're working constantly, they're moving constantly, they're not meditating, but they can still remain constantly in the state of samadhi. They're peaceful, their mind is tranquil, content, not seeking fame and wealth, and they're free from desires. Because they're in samadhi, their hearts and minds is connected to the Dharma, they're free from desires, and therefore, they're not seeking fame, and there's no delusions, and all the discursive thoughts cannot enter their minds. See, that's why they're called out, right? All these people, they are the leaders, and they're exemplary because they did all this. And then comes the next. Not only were they able to do that, but they also have great wisdom. They understand completely all the Dharma. See, once you achieve this samadhi, once your life and Dharma is connected because you're in the state of samadhi. Remember, samadhi is not meditation. It means that you have achieved the connection between life and Dharma at all times. You see something and you remember Dharma. You remember Dharma and then you know how it applies in your life. That's called samadhi, right? Whether something that's in form or empty, existence or non-existence, long or short, very clear and apparent. That means whether you see it or whether you don't see it. The Dharma and true principles, the principles and the worldly matters, all connected. Moreover, knowing well the capacity of the people, the natures, and everyone around them. So then now they have unhindered power of eloquence. They know exactly these exemplaries. They know how to explain the Dharma. They know how to apply the Dharma. And not only that, they ask the Buddha to turn the Dharma wheel. They ask the Buddha to teach all the sentient beings. And not only that, they ask the Buddha and they're able to turn it to help everybody. So this is very important. The reason why these bodhisattvas were called out because they have achieved the self samadhi. And then they can help others. And not only that, they're able to ask the Buddha to turn the Dharma wheel, and then they can turn it as well themselves. And then so then every little bit is an opportunity. Just like Master says, every second she is going to seize. Every little bit drops of dew will eventually immerse the dust of desire, right? So we're going to fan the winds of liberation and eliminate the fiery afflictions, okay, with the coolness of Dharma. So all these are praising these leaders of the class. All these are praising what they are doing. Why they are called out? Because they have done all these things. Next, they rain down the profound truth of the 12 links. What that means is that they use different ways to teach, right? At first, it talks about the suffering, and next they talk about the cause and conditions. And then all the people would understand. So all the people will understand that all the suffering comes from these causes and conditions. And they would be able to understand how to get rid of that. And they pour the stream of great vehicle. So this is very important. They pour the stream of great vehicle. They pour the water onto the sentient being's roots of goodness. That means you don't focus on the bad things, right? Everybody has afflictions. But instead of looking at the afflictions, we pour the stream of great vehicle. We teach you, offer you the teachings on your roots of goodness. And if you don't have the roots yet, I'm going to spread the seeds of goodness. So this is what these bodhisattvas are doing, right? They themselves understand. They themselves made the great vows. And then they will help others understand by pouring the great vehicles. And if you don't have the roots, I'm going to spread the seeds. and then lead all to develop the sprout of Bodhi. So this is why they are examples, because they have achieved self-enlightenment, and then they're helping others to achieve. So next, with their wisdom as the sun and the moon, they apply skillful means according to the proper timing and condition. This is a great analogy between cultivators and farmers, right? Sun and the moon means you have the sun, you have the nutrients, and also it means the time. You give the time, sun and the moon. The sun, moon means day, right? So that means with time, you apply the skillful means to teach them, and then support and develop the work of great vehicle and lead all to achieve great enlightenment. So how do they do it? How? Now it goes into the how. So before, remember, we were talking about who are they, why are they called out, and they're all great things, right? Oh, they're achieved the self-cultivation. They make great vows for eons and eons to cultivation, and they do all these things. Now it goes into how did they actually do it? Well, by being these genuine spiritual friends, great fields of blessing. And what does that mean by great fields of blessing? It means that I create this field of blessing. Imagine Master. Without Master, we would not have Tzu Chi. Without Tzu Chi, how would we cultivate the fields of blessing? Without Tzu Chi to say, oh, we have charity. Let's do charity. The field is already there. Without Tzu Chi to help us and say, oh, look at this. These are the refugees. Even if there are refugees and even if there are people around you that help them, the great fields of blessing is not just about helping them, but also teaching them. It's almost like we're building a school, and there is a field work, there's a field class, and then there's a classroom class. And this is somebody had to establish the environment for us to learn. So how do they do that? How do they become self-cultivating, self-enlightenment? And how do they help others? Well, they are your good friends. They're doing this all for you. And they are providing the great fields of blessing. And they're unsummoned teacher. They see you troubled. They come to you to help you. And they're safe, stable, and joyful refuge. Whenever you need help, you can always find refuge in them. That's how they do it, okay? And they treat all sorts of illnesses, okay? All these problems, the body, the mind, they will help you. That's why they become acceptable by the people. That's how they're able to rain down, pour the teachings of great vehicles onto the roots of goodness. And even if you're faced with difficulties, at the stage they remain firm and unwavering. They never change their purpose. They never change how they want to cultivate the seeds. If there's no seeds, I'm going to plant the seeds. If there are seeds, then there are roots. I'm going to water it. And I'm going to teach you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to walk with you. They abide in the power of their vows. And what they do is, no matter what, their vows will be unwavering. So lastly, before long, they will attain this final, utmost enlightenment. So what does that mean? Summary. I'm finally done. Summary. So all these things, I'm just break it down one statement at a time. You will realize that this is exactly what Tzu Chi is doing. So Master always says, if you look at the Lotus Sutra, all the summary is in the Sutra of Infinite Meanings. If you look at the Sutra of Infinite Meanings, you look at chapter 1, you're going to get the entire summary as well. So this is the summary of the epilogue. 6 factors, always remember, you have the sense of gratitude. Without all these 6 factors coming in together, you will not be able to achieve this, accomplish this sutra. So very important. So the next part is, why are these bodhisattvas mentioned? Because they have achieved their self-enlightenment. They have already gotten there. But the most important part is they got there by self-work and also by helping others achieve enlightenment. And eventually, before long, okay, so this is a very important statement. Before long, they is talking about the bodhisattvas that we're talking about. They will attain. And not only they will attain, but the people they're helping will attain. So that's what first chapter is talking about. Without condition, this will not happen. So we have to be grateful that all things are right. All the conditions are right. Next, in order to achieve self-enlightenment, you need to do cultivation. And that's going through precept, samadhi, wisdom, and liberation and the understanding of liberation. And what does that mean? It means helping others, helping yourself. And that's Bodhisattva path. And that's it. So if you look at the epilogue, this is the entire snapshot of what Bodhisattva path is all about. The next chapter talks about in depth, how do you do that? But it's so much in depth that it goes a little bit too deep. So many people sometimes get lost about what is all this emptiness and form and formlessness. What does it actually mean? But in reality, chapter 1 tells you a very good summary. So before I hand off to the center, I really want to get to one of these questions that I think is very important. Okay, so this is question number 29. On page 29. I'm sorry. Question number 34. I really appreciate you asking this question. I really, really do, because we have a lot of the same questions in Taiwan, and I really want to answer it before I hand off. So the question is this. We often hear questions from the public. Why Tzu Chi spend lots of money in building such a huge Jing Si hall? So this is a very important question, because we don't just build huge ones, we build many of them. So it's all over the place. And people ask them, well, why do you build this, right? Why don't you build hospitals? Or we did. Why don't you build schools? Or we did. Why don't you build villages? We did too. So why do you need to build Jing Si hall? Very important, and we need to understand. In times of crisis, Jing Si hall will act as a center of emergency response. Think of it this way. If you don't, in the neighborhood that you live in, would you like to have police station? I'm sure you say you would do. Would you like to have a fire station? Yes, in case of fire. Would you like to have a hospital? Yes, you do. So all these things respond to emergency very closely. If you have a fire station that is about 15 minutes away, or a hospital that is about 30 minutes away, unfortunately, doesn't matter how fast the ambulance drives, it's not going to get to you. Same thing. Jing Si hall, in times of crisis, in times of emergency, it acts as a center of converging the resources, the rescue expertise, and all the people that are willing to help. In times of crisis, if you don't know what to do, what do? You go to Jing Si hall. You put on your uniform, you go there, you become a volunteer. You know you would do something. But if there's no Jing Si hall, how do you know where to go? How do you know where everybody is waiting to help others? How do you know where to get help? In times of crisis, last time there was a train wreck here in Yilan. And the mobile command center was right next to the train station where the train wreck happened. There was no bathroom. There was no restroom. So what would they do? They have to come in with all the mobile ones, and that was so far later. They have to borrow the ones from nearby restaurants, and most of them were not open because it was a weekend. So how would you borrow them? You can't. It's not a convenient place right there. In the Jing Si hall, if you have enough places, it becomes a command center to allow the coordination of efforts. Then, if it's big enough, all the relief goods will go where? Go to that place. And then you have people, material, at the same place, you can coordinate where to go. If you go into all the documentaries about the 9/21 earthquake, this is exactly what happened. All the relief goods, people don't know when to send them. It is sent to where? Our Jing Si hall. Because people gather there and they know how to categorize all the things. So in times of crisis, it's a command center. In times of peace, when there's no crisis, what do? That's a place where we train. And this training isn't just about volunteer training. It talks about getting our minds ready for emergency, getting our minds ready from when there is problems, but also getting our minds so that there won't be problems. So it acts as a way to make sure, prevent problems from happening. Training for when the problems do happen. That's what Jing Si hall. If you can purify the minds of people, then you wouldn't have sufferings. So it starts there. But in case there is suffering, what do? We train and we get ready and we prepare. That's why we need Jing Si hall. And that's why you also see churches. That's why you see churches, you see community centers. Jing Si hall is a combination of fire station, police station, hospital, schools, churches, community center, all comes into one. That's why we have tutoring sessions. That's why we have a free clinic. That's why we have free lunches. We have all these things, free meal serves, etc., happening in our location, and all the activities. It all merges into one. Don't look at the money. Look at what functions is served in the community, in the society, okay? So why not reserve money for charity? I explained. If you can prevent things from happening, you should do it. If you cannot prevent it, you should train and be prepared. And when things do happen, you have a place to converge all the resources and be a command center to coordinate. That's exactly what we do. Now we're building our first school in Malaysia. Why not build an ordinary building? Because schools are supposed to inspire, just like your home. Why don't you just build a hut? You can live in it. It will shield you from the sun. You can shield you from the rain and the wind. All you need is a hut. No, you don't. Because you want a place where it feels like home. You want a place where it can inspire you. I want to work more. This is a place where you feel safe. This is a place where you feel inspired. School is the same. You want to go into the school, you feel that I am here to learn. This is an environment. Remember what we said? The Bodhisattvas are the great fields of blessing. They create an environment. Master once said that she built a hospital for the doctors. Why? Because she wants to put together like minds, doctors of like-mindedness that all want to help people. They don't have to worry about this location is not good enough. They don't have to worry about you thinking something else that's different from my thinking. No, we're all here to help people. But you need a good place, good equipment, and all these things prepared and ready. That's what Master is doing. For all those people that they want to learn, this is a good place for you to learn. For all those people that are not willing to learn, you come here, you'll be inspired to learn. And that's the very important thing. That's why the structure matters. Otherwise, all you need is a prefab. All you need is a hut. It's not enough. You need inspiration. You can't just force students to learn, but you need inspiration. That's why our are built in such a way that inspires ages and timelessness to inspire students and kids to learn, and also adapts to the world as well, okay? So why there are interviews and exam sessions, I'm not gonna explain that. That's going into education, okay? So why not take naughty students instead of good ones? How do we answer this? So we take students, okay, so I'm not sure about the Malaysia process, okay? But in terms of the education, in terms of Taiwan, we take all students, right? And there are a lot of parents from other cities and counties. They would send their problematic children, or children with more needs to our school, thinking that you come in here and it's going to purify them and they're going to come out wonderful, wonderful, wonderful kids. Some of them do, but some of them are really, really difficult. And we are not miracle workers. We are teachers. We're human beings too. We're not God and just touch your head, just like Master, touch your head and boom, you're done. It doesn't work that way. If it works that way, then we don't need teachers. We just need Master to touch everybody's head, and everybody will become saints. It doesn't work that way, right? So same thing. What we're trying to do is set an example, right? This is why we just talk about the virtues, the chapter 1 of virtues. You are setting an example that everyone else can follow. It's in the entrepreneurship and in the classes of entrepreneurship. It always talks about setting examples that others can follow, doing in the structure that others can copy. This is the exact same thing. Building a school so that whether you take in naughty or good students, same. I'm going to bring you and teach you so that you can come out to be good citizens. Okay, so that's why there's not supposed to be any difference. But in any event, it's trying to build a school of exemplary. Same thing. In the sutra, chapter 1, it talks about all the exemplary bodhisattvas. It's talking about the same thing, why it's so good. It lists out all the good things that they did on their own. They worked very hard. Brother Joe is a good student. He worked very hard to do all this. He woke up at 4 o'clock and he goes to sleep at 10:30. He's very, all the things very proper. He eats healthily and he studies very hard, and it helps other people to understand their material, and at the same time he achieved good grades. Same thing. It lists out all the things that they did as great examples so that other people can follow, and that's what virtues are. And that's what these schools are supposed to do. So this will be the answering the questions for hopefully answer the question for this. All that Master is trying to do is, we can't build all the schools, but what we can do is to set a good example, just like virtues. You can't get everybody to become like all the bodhisattvas, but what you can do is list out what they do, and if you follow what they do, you copy what they do, and eventually, if you copy the good habits of successful people, you will eventually become successful as well. And that's what chapter 1 is supposed to do, and that's what the schools are built. Okay, so that's my sharing for today. Sorry, I'm way over time, but I'm hoping that it gives you some understanding, bigger perspective about what the sutra was trying to tell you, and also why we build these schools in this way. Okay, thank you. And now we're handing over to the KL for sharings. Thank you.
Sister Stephanie.
Good morning, Amitabha, to all the Sifus, Brother Joe. Okay, with the 5 minutes that I have to share, I would just like to touch on what Brother Joe mentioned. Yeah, which is the meaning of samadhi. To me, this really captured my attention because I used to come from a meditation background. And as with meditation, yeah, you are in samadhi only when you sit. Yeah, but Master has paved us this path where we remain in samadhi even as we are doing. And from Brother Joe's recap of what was told last week is that the ability that we have to keep on contemplating and reflecting and connect the Dharma in where all the senses that we have, you know, the 6 senses that we have, that we see everything we hear, everything that we taste, touch, and remain in a contemplative and reflective mode and keep on connecting to the Dharma. And that is by itself samadhi. And I find it's such a powerful thing because from starting joining into Tzu Chi, where I was actually having depression and all that, where to become reflective or contemplative is very difficult, to the point that where we are today, to be able to keep on, you know, coming to and fro with Dharma in everything that we see, feel, think, touch, listen, and to remain pure and tranquil every step of the way. I think it is such a wonderful training that Master has benefited all of us. Of course, there are times where, you know, Indian Sing, you know, will arise, you know, but we are able to seize it in that moment and bring it down again. So today, I feel that my sharing is the training that Master has bequeathed to us, that has paved to, yeah, really helped us. And the field of blessing that was mentioned just now is actually the space for us to connect with people, right? Master says it's a place for us to connect with people, to train ourselves, and also to encourage others to become a person of virtue, a role model for others to follow, and also to it's not just our field of blessing, it's a place where we provide causes and conditions for other people to come and cultivate and plant their own seeds of goodness. And this field of blessing is what connects all of us, Pusa, you know, to the Zhongsen. That's where, to me, that's the field of blessings. Yeah. So, all right, I shall pass to Sister Irene now to do her sharing. Thank you very much, Kan-en.
Okay, yeah, we have one sister who come very early in the morning from Cheras. It's quite a distance away. Okay, maybe she came with Sister Irene. Sister Irene can briefly share some on this.
Good morning, Shifu. Good morning, everyone across the globe. We are from Taiwan. When I told her, Sister Li Hui, she actually planned to come. But yesterday, she started to have changed mindset texting me the reasons she can't come, and I start to reply her, and also I understand her and say it's okay if you really can't make it. It's okay, you don't have to come. But early this morning also I put in the special WhatsApp group to my small Tibetan group to say that if you all can't come, please pray on your side sincerely and dedicate this prayers and chanting to Master. I think the thing is, as long as we have the wish and a real aspiration that we want to come sincerely for a good cause to pray for Master and for such an event, Sister Li Hui has made it, and every one of us has come here sincerely to pray for Master, for speedy recovery, and弟子all are ready, also waiting for Master. Master is always ready, but弟子also must be ready to be ever ready there to listen when Master come out to expound Dharma again. And as I share with everyone, even the Wisdom at Dawn recorded, when it's aired online, is equally good. And I always persevere every morning. Yeah, thank you.
感恩 Sister Li Hui 也 Sister Irene over to Hualien，感恩。
好。
Hi, good morning, everyone. Actually, for first of all, I'm very grateful and very touching. Is like as I know in KL, there's have a chanting of the Sutra of Infinite Meaning since they started around 6 o'clock to 7 during the breakfast time in our Jingsa Board. And I know that there's a group of people who are really very sincere heart to do the chanting, and for Master as well, and also for the school and the work. And I think just like Brother Joe mentioned just now, for completing, expounding a complete sutra, they need to fulfillment of 5 factors of accomplishment. And I think just now, as Sister Irene mentioned that one of our Gensi volunteer who were supposed not to attend this today for this event, but eventually, and she finally, because she sister opportunity and come, and she got a chance to follow the whole activities and follow the program. So I think as well as we know that we are in the era of Dharma degeneration, as we mentioned, now we are in the area of Dharma degeneration more. But as our Jingsi Hall, is a good place for everyone to cultivate their what is our path. I think this is what the Dharma insists. The 末法 是 when there's no place to listen to the Dharma. But if 金丝后或金丝塔扮演的就是一个传法的地方，所以现在也是正法。This is what I try to say. Okay, thanks.
First, if we all can sing together the vow, there's a song that we can sing together before we call it closure today. 感恩. Okay, we take this opportunity to sing this song. Cherishing Master and promise pledge to be diligent. Master, do not worry. Master will wait for you to resume chapter 20. 感恩. 师父，感恩 Brother Joe， 感恩 brothers and sisters, all the sharers, Sister Stephanie, Sister Irene, Sister Li Hui. 感恩 so many people today. They have come since very early, 5 o'clock in the morning. Some 4 something they couldn't. Already very excited, waiting for this moment. Very grateful. So, Master, we all pledge to continue to be diligent. Master, do not worry. We will stay diligent and we will continue to pass on Master teaching. One word, one sentence. If we can penetrate another person, we will continue doing it. Holding our hands together. Very grateful for the guidance of Hualien teachers, really, the Sifu, Brother Joe, all of you never giving up on us. We are very grateful. The English world, we are always feel that we are really blessed Lord to have all of you, all of the love of Master. 上人，请不用 worry. We will continue to stay diligent. 感恩。Okay, today let us pay homage to Buddha and Sangren as we depart to apply these teachings in our daily life. Okay, palms together. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. And bow to our beloved Sifu who could always join us. 感恩。感恩 Sifu. Okay, project. Okay, wait, we project to the people here. Okay, here. Okay, everyone wait. They can see. Wait, Okay. Oh, sorry. You see the video? Cảm ơn. Okay, we can stay for sharing. Cảm ơn.